If you love embroidery and stitching, stay tuned. Today I'm creating a beautiful card project using a Spellbinders Embroidery Stitch Die, next on the Victoria Marie YouTube channel. Back to the Victoria Marie YouTube channel, where I feature all things scrapbooking and crafting. If that's something you enjoy, make sure you hit the subscribe button. When you do, click the bell so you'll be notified each and every time a new video is posted. So for today's card project, I'm going to be using a Spellbinders cutting die. Now, Spellbinders and other companies have recently come out with really cool dies that you can use to embroider. So if you like fiber arts, then this is the project for you. Now, this is the type of project that you want to take your time on and just relax. This is something that you can take with you on the go if you want to, or you can just turn on some Netflix, chill, grab a cup of coffee and tea, and embroider. You don't need many supplies for this, and it's super easy to do. So let's go ahead and get started. Now that I'm sufficiently caffeinated, let's go ahead and get into this project. All of the products that I will be using in this project or in this video are posted down below in the description. So today I'm going to be creating these embroidered stitch cards, and Spellbinders makes it super easy to do this. You can just grab the floss that you have in your stash. All you need is a die cutting machine as well to cut out the die that allows you to stitch that wonderful card front, and some of your favorite floss, and you can get started. I'm using some DMC floss, and I'll make sure to post the numbers of those DMC flosses in the description. So here I'm using this cutting die by Spellbinders. It has two parts. It has the plate, which you see there with that beautiful intricate design, and that's going to cut out a design that allows you to embroider or stitch. And then there's also an outline die as well. I'm going to be using some gray solid cardstock from the Cardstock Warehouse, along with a card base that's from my stash. And here's an example of what that cut will look like. I'm actually going to run that through my die cutting machine here in a second. And you can use any color combination that you want to of different threads and floss and cardstock to make a whole bunch of these cards to have on hand. I also reached in my stash and grabbed the Spellbinders hot foil set that has some sentiments as well as some dies to cut out the sentiment, and you'll see me do that here in just a second. So to get started, we're going to use the die. I'm going to apply that or secure it with some low tack tape and run that through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. Of course, you can use whatever die cutting machine you have on hand. And what that's going to do is cut out that beautiful intricate die design. I'm going to throw away any of the little flyaway pieces and move forward to embroidering this piece. Next, you're going to select the colors that you want to use, and I chose 3, and again, I provided those numbers down in the description below. I'm going to separate the floss and grabbing 3 of the strands of floss. Now, you can use as many strands as you want to. The DMC floss has 6 strands. And so I'm just going to pull apart 3, and I find that 3 allows the design to be dynamic without being too bulky. I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle, and this is where the fun begins. So I can decide what color I want to start with first, and I'm actually going to focus on the middle section of this particular design with sort of a lighter blue color. And then I'll decide if there's any other parts of this particular design that I want to add that color. Then I'll move on to my second floss color and then my third. I like to accent with the darker color, so I usually save that to last. But again, the cool thing about this is you can make this whatever you want. Also later in the video, I'm going to show you a card example where I didn't actually do any embroidery on this particular piece. I just cut another panel and used it at more of a textured background panel for my card project. Now for this panel, I began my stitch by running my thread up the middle of the panel, and I secured it with a little bit of low tack tape. Of course, you can tie a knot if you want to. You can use some washi tape, however you want to attach the thread. That way it doesn't slip out when you are going through and embroidering this piece. So once I have my thread secured, I'm going to go ahead and start embroidering, starting with the middle section, that is the middle section, and then I will work my way out to the sections where I want to use this particular color. And then when I'm done with my stitching, what I'll do is I'll run the needle through the back and just kind of run it through sort of a series of the stitches to secure it. And you'll see me do that here in a second. And look how pretty that is. It's so gorgeous. You can use any type of embroidery threads with this. You can even bring in some metallic threads if you want to, some gradiated threads too, whatever you have in your stash. You can make it as colorful or as neutral as you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off this particular stitch. I'm going to cut it using my fabric scissors. And now that middle section's done. You can opt to embroider the entire piece or just part of it. It's completely up to you. Once you get it going, it's just a matter of deciding where you want to use that particular color again on the panel. I'm switching now to this more coral color, and then I'll finish off the panel with the darker color floss. And with that, this panel is beautifully stitched. I love this color combination, and I love that this project allows you to sort of use some creative freedom to pick the color floss that you want, to sit down, relax, embroider a whole bunch of these panels that you can then turn into beautiful cards. Now, speaking of cards, I want to pull all the rest of the elements together that I'm going to use to create this card. So I have a panel that I trimmed down. This, by the way, is an A2 size card, a US A2 size card, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I have a piece of gray cardstock from Cardstock Warehouse, and I love the way the gray plays with this gorgeous color palette that I selected. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere the embroidered panel to the gray cardstock so it has a little bit of color popping in between there. It's really gorgeous. Or I could have just adhered it straight to my card base if I didn't want a color panel behind there. Then I'm going to take that whole piece and attach that to my card base using some Barely Art liquid glue. Once that's all together, I'm going to set that to the side and work on the greeting. The greeting for this card is going to say, "On your special day." And what I'm going to do is take this die set from Spellbinders, and notice that I have my Spellbinders Glimmer machine. That's a hot foil machine. And you use that to foil beautiful projects. And I've been really all about hot foiling lately. I just absolutely love it. And I try to use it every time, or not every time, but a lot of times when I'm making a card lately, because I just love it. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up on my hot foiling machine, the die, the hot foil material, as well as the cardstock. Once the die is heated up, or the hot foil plate, I should say, is heated up, then I'm going to go ahead and run that through my Platinum 6, and that's going to give me a beautiful foiled sentiment. I'm using a sand eraser to get rid of any overfoiling, because sometimes that does happen. The foil goes where you don't want it. Once the greeting is done, I'm going to attach it to the card panel using some foam adhesive squares. I wanted to make sure that the adhesive, or not the adhesive, the sentiment rather, could pop up just a tiny bit, but not make it too bulky where it makes it difficult to send through the mail if I choose to send this card through the mail. I absolutely love how this looks with the gold foiling and all the colors. It's just really stunning. And with that, we've got a beautiful stitch embroidered panel all done. Super, super simple. Here are some other examples, just using some different colors that I had so much fun putting together. I love the blues of the middle one, and of course the red and the green of the one on the left-hand side. And I especially like this panel that I just made with those gorgeous muted modern colors. Now, if you don't want to embroider, you can definitely use these stitch dies just to add texture to your project. So here I cut another panel. I also heat foiled this beautiful floral piece, and I used some of my Copic markers to color that in to create this card. And notice how all that beautiful texture is just subtle, but it gives you just enough to where it's not overwhelming the other element on the card. I could have chose to stitch it or not, but that's an example of how you can also use this die. If you were inspired to embroider and stitch on your cards, make sure you check out these fantastic dies. It makes doing these types of projects super easy. Of course, the products that I use in this video are posted in the description below. And don't forget, if you like what you see here on this channel, make sure you click that subscribe button, click the bell, that way you'll be notified each and every time I post new content to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.